Welcome to Jojo Goes to IC, the show where every week I go to BYU's International Cinema, watch 2 to 3 films, and give you guys my recommendations on which films I think you should see. Last week was Opera Week, so there were 3 opera-themed films, in addition to the one documentary that they usually show. First film that I saw was a production of The Magic Flute, directed by Ingmar Bergman. And what's really interesting about this film in particular is that you're getting this sort of different view of the opera because he's filming within the space of the stage. It's on a stage, but you get these sort of reverse shots and shots from on the stage that really bring you into the world of the opera, and yet at the same time there's also all of these shots that break the fourth wall, where he'll cut to the reactions of the audience, and he will cut to, or he'll follow actors off stage. I believe there's a moment during the intermission where we see like the actors messing about backstage. So all of this really contributes to this sort of interesting look at the opera because it's emphasizing the production, emphasizing the theatrical nature of it, drawing our attention to it. I think that's really cool. I mean, the music is good. It's, the Magic Flute, it's Mozart. But I think that those elements are what stand out most about this particular production of it. So I'd recommend that one. The second film that I saw was a production of Elektra. From what I know, from what I understand of the history of this opera, it's by Strauss. It's one act. What's interesting about the opera in particular is that it's very modernist. The music is very dissonant, loud, cacophonous, and the set design is pretty sparse, and it takes place like mostly in the dark. It sort of has this sort of bleak, open atmosphere. And then mixed with the music, it really emphasizes the emotion and just the size of the emotion of like Elektra's desire for revenge. So I think it emphasizes that. And based on what I've heard, when the opera originally came out, people didn't like it at all. And I can see why. I mean, it's an acquired taste, but I am really into dissonant music, so I enjoyed it a lot. I know that it's not for everybody, and I also know that opera is not really for everybody, but I think it's worth seeing at least once. So I'd recommend that one as well. The last film that I saw was actually the documentary Mankiller, about Wilma Mankiller of the Cherokee Nation. She was I believe the first female chief of chiefs of the Cherokee Nation, and she really helped to make the nation self-sufficient, in like the 80s and 90s. This documentary, there's not a lot that's really formally interesting about it. I mean, occasionally they'll put up quotes on screen from Wilma Mankiller and from other people, but most of it is like talking heads and archival footage. But what I think is really elevates the film is the subject matter, the focus on Wilma Mankiller, because she's just a pretty incredible individual. She's sort of dealing with this sort of sexism. Originally the Cherokee people were a matriarchal society, but then over time, over the years, being exposed to patriarchal society, they started to become more patriarchal. And so she has people, as she's trying to help and make things better, she has this sort of opposition. But then people really start to rally around her. I also thought it was really interesting, this sort of the one of the ways in which she is able to make the Cherokee Nation self-sustainable was to create sort of an industry of gambling on the reservations, and that created a ton of jobs and brought a ton of money into the reservation. And like, I think that it's interesting because I feel like it's kind of a necessary evil in this particular situation, in that particular sense, because it's helping this marginalized group, and they're really benefiting from it. So I sort of, in that way, I think that that's an interesting detail. I guess we're not. That's complicated. It's a complicated issue. So all in all, I would recommend these 3 films. I thought they were good. They're worthy of getting a thumbs up from me. So go and seek them out if you ever have time, with all of the movies that are in the world. So, Jojo out.